All right, let's jump into another deep dive. This time, we're tackling something a little different.
Different how?
Well, we're getting close to the holidays.
Ah, yeah.
And we thought it'd be interesting to go beyond the usual, the cheery stuff.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So we're looking at this video blog transcript all about the kind of pressures that come with December.
Emotional and social pressures.
Exactly. It's like everyone expects December to be this magical time.
Right? Picture perfect.
But let's be real. For a lot of people, it's not always like that.
Not always, no.
So we're using this blog as a kind of like a toolkit to help people, not just survive the holidays, but actually thrive.
I like that. A toolkit for thriving. And what's the blogger's take on these pressures?
Well, one thing they really hit on is this feeling of almost like a tug of war.
As tug of war?
Yeah, between wanting to, embrace the holiday spirit, be festive and all that, but also needing space to just be yourself.
Ah, I see. That internal conflict between expectation and reality.
Yes, you get it. Have you ever felt that, like that pressure to perform a certain way during the holiday?
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like you're on stage playing the role of happy festive person.
Totally. Even when you're totally not feeling it.
And the blogger points out how that pressure to conform to fit this idealized image of December can really backfire.
Backfire how?
Well, we end up suppressing our true emotions, which can lead to stress, resentment, you name it.
It's like we're putting on a show, but at what cost?
Exactly. And it's not just about those, those cheesy commercials or whatever.
It's deeper than that.
Yeah. The blog also talks about how social media kind of amplifies this whole pressure cooker situation.
Oh, social media, of course. Everyone's posting their perfect holiday moments.
Exactly. It becomes a comparison game.
Yeah.
And we start feeling like we're not measuring up.
Ugh, I know that feeling. It's like everyone else is living in a Hallmark movie while you're stuck in the behind-the-scenes reality show.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. But here's the thing, and it's a point the blogger emphasizes. It's okay to not be okay.
That's a good reminder. But, it's one thing to say it.
It's another to actually live it.
Yeah, it's especially during the holidays when everyone seems to be radiating cheer.
It can be tough to give yourself permission to feel those less than festive emotions.
Totally. So what's the antidote to this whole pressure to perform thing?
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
Yes, the blog is all about setting boundaries as a way to protect your well-being, especially during the holidays.
So saying no to things.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing your needs, even if it means declining invitations or opting out of certain traditions.
But isn't that kind of selfish? I mean, it's the holidays. Aren't we supposed to be, all about togetherness and all that?
It's not selfish at all. In fact, the blog argues that setting boundaries is actually a way of honoring both yourself and the people you care about.
How so?
Because when you're taking care of yourself, you're better able to show up for others in a genuine and meaningful way.
That's an interesting way to think about it. But it still feels tricky, especially when it comes to family or long-held traditions.
Oh, absolutely. The holidays can be a minefield of expectations and unspoken rules.
Like you have to go to Aunt So-and-so's annual cookie swap, even if you secretly hate baking.
Exactly. And the blog suggests that sometimes those traditions, even if they're well-intentioned, can actually prevent us from creating new, more meaningful experiences.
Wow, that's a good point. So how do we break free from those outdated holiday scripts and start creating something more authentic?
Well, the blog has some great suggestions for that, which I'm excited to dig into.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's hear it.
First things first, the blog encourages us to shift our perspective. Instead of seeing the holidays as this time to, endure or perform,
Right.
try to see them as an opportunity to connect with what truly matters to you.
Okay, I like that. It's like reframing the holidays.
Exactly. And once you've made that mental shift, the blog suggests taking some concrete steps to create boundaries that support your well-being.
Okay, so give me an example.
For example, being mindful of your commitments and learning to say no to invitations or obligations that feel overwhelming.
Ooh, saying no. That's always a tough one.
It can be, but the blog emphasizes the importance of being direct and honest in your communication, but also compassionate with yourself and others.
So instead of making up some elaborate excuse for why I can't go to 5 different holiday parties.
Right.
I could just be upfront and say, hey, I'm really focusing on self-care this year, so I'm going to be more selective about the events I attend.
Exactly. You don't need to over-explain or apologize. Just state your intentions clearly and calmly.
It's like setting boundaries can actually be a form of self-respect.
I love that. And not just for ourselves, but also for the people we care about.
That makes sense. And it sounds like setting boundaries isn't just about saying no. It's also about being proactive and creating an experience that aligns with your values.
Exactly. The blog encourages us to think about what truly nourishes us during the holidays.
So instead of feeling obligated to go to every party or bake a million cookies,
Yeah.
we could choose to spend more time reading or just enjoying quiet evenings at home.
Precisely. It's about reclaiming the holidays and making them your own.
This is so inspiring.
Yeah.
But realistically, even with the best intentions, the holiday season can feel overwhelming.
Of course.
What happens when those feelings of stress start to creep in? How do we cope in a healthy way?
That's such an important question, and it's something the blog provides some incredibly practical strategies for.
Okay, I'm ready to hear them. What are some of the things the blog suggests?
Well, it all starts with understanding a key concept the blogger talks about, which is something they call the performance of happiness. The performance of happiness. Interesting.
Right, like we feel this pressure to act like everything's perfect, even when it's not.
Exactly. And the blogger argues that this pressure to perform happiness can actually make things worse.
In what way?
Well, think about it. If we're constantly trying to project this image of joy and contentment, we're essentially denying ourselves the space to process those other, those less than festive emotions.
So like if I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, but I feel like I have to pretend I'm not, it's
Exactly.
like I'm just bottling it all up inside.
You got it. And that can lead to a whole cascade of negative consequences. Stress, anxiety, resentment, you name it.
It's almost like we're creating this pressure cooker of emotions.
A pressure cooker, yeah. And the holidays, with all their demands and expectations, can really turn up the heat.
That makes a lot of sense. So how do we avoid getting trapped in this cycle of performing happiness?
The blog suggests we start by challenging those expectations.
Okay, but how do we actually do that?
Well, first, it's important to remember that it's okay to not be okay.
Right, we talked about that earlier.
But it's more than just a nice saying. It's about giving ourselves permission to experience the full spectrum of emotions, even during the holidays.
So it's okay to feel sad or stressed or even just a little bit bah humbug sometimes.
Exactly. Those emotions are all part of the human experience. And trying to suppress them or pretend they don't exist only makes things worse in the long run.
So instead of trying to force ourselves to feel happy all the time,
Yeah.
we need to create space to acknowledge and process whatever emotions come up.
You got it. And that might mean having some honest conversations with ourselves and with the people around us.
Honest conversations
Wait.
about our feelings.
Exactly. It's about letting go of that pressure to put on a happy face all the time.
Okay, I can see how that would be helpful. But how do we actually start those conversations? It feels a little awkward, bringing up those kind of heavy topics during the holidays.
It can be awkward, for sure. But the blog suggests that starting with self-compassion can make a big difference.
Self-compassion.
Yeah, like being kind and understanding with yourself, even when you're not feeling your best.
So instead of beating myself up for feeling stressed or overwhelmed, I can just acknowledge those feelings and say to myself, hey, it's okay to feel this way. It's normal.
Exactly. And once you've offered yourself that compassion, it becomes easier to extend it to others.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does that translate into those conversations with family or friends?
Well, it might mean being a little more vulnerable and sharing how you're really feeling.
Like instead of pretending everything's fine, I could say something like, hey, I'm actually feeling a bit stressed out lately. The holidays are always a lot for me.
Exactly. And you might be surprised by how receptive people are. You might find that they're feeling the same way.
That's true. It's like once one person opens up, it can create space for others to do the same.
Exactly. And that can be so powerful. It can help to break down those walls of isolation and create a sense of shared understanding.
It's like we're all in this together.
We are. And the holidays can actually be a beautiful opportunity to connect with each other on a deeper level, but it requires us to let go of that pressure to perform happiness.
Okay, so we've talked about self-compassion, honest conversations, and setting boundaries. What other tools does the blog recommend for managing those holiday pressures?
Well, it emphasizes the importance of having a solid self-care routine in place.
Self-care, yes. But it's hard to find the time. with everything else going on.
I know, it can feel like just another thing to add to the to-do list.
Exactly.
But the blog suggests that thinking about self-care as an investment rather than an obligation can be helpful.
An investment.
Yeah, like you're investing in your well-being, which
Oh.
ultimately allows you to show up more fully for yourself and for others.
Okay, I can get behind that. So what are some specific self-care practices that the blog recommends?
The blog actually offers a whole bunch of practical ideas, from simple things like getting enough sleep.
Sleep, yes.
Yes.
That's always the first thing to go for me.
Right. But it makes a huge difference. And then there's nutrition.
Okay, yeah, I definitely indulge a little too much during the holidays.
It happens. But being mindful of what we eat can really impact our energy levels and mood.
So like maybe swap out some of those sugar cookies for, I don't know, some fruit or something.
Exactly. And don't forget about hydration.
Oh, right, water. I'm terrible at remembering to drink enough water.
It's easy to forget, especially when we're busy. But staying hydrated is so important, especially during times of stress.
Okay, so sleep, food, water.
Yeah.
Got it. What else?
The blog also talks about the importance of movement.
Exercise.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be anything intense. Even a short walk can make a difference.
I actually love going for walks, especially when it's like crisp and cold outside.
It's a great way to clear your head and get some fresh air.
Plus, it helps burn off some of those holiday calories.
Uh-huh. Bonus. And then for those moments when you need a little extra help calming down.
Yeah, those moments definitely happen.
The blog suggests mindfulness and meditation.
Oh, I've heard so much about those, but I've always been intimidated to try them.
It can seem intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. Even just taking a few minutes to focus on your breath can make a huge difference.
Like just sit there and breathe.
Exactly. It sounds simple, but it can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I might have to give that a try.
I think you'd be surprised at how much it can help.
Okay, so we've got sleep, nutrition, hydration, exercise, mindfulness. Any other self-care tips?
One last thing I wanted to touch on is the idea of giving yourself permission to do things differently.
Do things differently.
Yeah, like maybe this year you skip that holiday party that always stresses you out.
Ooh, that's tempting.
Or maybe you decide to spend Christmas Eve curled up with a good book instead of running around doing last-minute shopping.
I like where your head's at. It's like we don't have to follow the same script every year.
Exactly. It's about creating a holiday experience that feels authentic and meaningful to you. And sometimes that means breaking with tradition.
I love that. Giving ourselves permission to create our own holiday traditions.
And to prioritize our well-being.
That's so important. This whole conversation has been so eye-opening. I feel like I'm approaching the holidays with a whole new perspective.
I'm so glad to hear that. It's been great diving into this with you.
Me too. I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of this.
I hope so. And remember, even if the holidays get a little crazy,
Which they always do.
you have the power to choose how you respond.
That's a great reminder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope you have a wonderful and authentic holiday season.